Welcome to the Tomb of Illumination, formerly Flat Earth Philosophy. This video is basically about philosophy today. I was preparing to redo my Euclid's fifth postulate video, just to clarify a few other things. And I wanted to bring Pythagoras into it because he had a hemisphere. I don't know if it's theory, but I thought he had some club. It had something to do with hemispheres. So I want to try and look for that. But came across this Philolaus. Broke it down. Philolaus, of Pythagorean descent. He came 500 years after Pythagoras. And they like to put some chronological flow to everything. Like in religion, it's all BS, okay? All the ancient philosophy is all of the flat earth system. Basically in an esoteric form that the common man, these Gentiles, whatever you want to call them, can't interpret, so they make up stuff, okay? So anyway, I'll just talk a little bit about him and what he was saying about the earthly system. Philolaus was a Pythagorean philosopher who claimed that fire was the first cause of existence and heat the underlying source of human life. He is best known for his pyrocentric model of the universe, which replaced Earth as the centre of the solar system with a central fire around which all else evolved. But what they are talking about is the unseen sun, you see. And even modern science today know there's an unseen sun, because it's spelled, the Chinese spell it out actually, but that's the source of the atomic timekeeping. Because in a lot of mythological stories it tells you the sun's boring, it just goes round like this. And back at the central source of creation, which is the central vortex of creation, which sits hidden above the central Arctic of our flat earth system, is all unseen. And where the sun is created, the unseen plasma, is centralized to the Milky Way, which is considered the fire, which is connected to the dragon breathing fire. So there is the unseen sun at the center. Well, all of Earth, all creation is from the central point. It's a projection. It's all projected out from the central rotation. Everything, all life is in here. Considered as the tree of life. But I'll go a bit deeper in that soon, where the actual tree is. Explaining the tree a bit more, but this place here is where creation comes from. Everything out in our realm is a projection. So as this turns slowly, all the night sky, because night is the backdrop for the projection, for the images of the stars. Okay? That's why they're considered as signs, because that's all they are. They are signs which lead us to the truth, for those who seek the truth. Not those dodos who think they live on a spinning ball and just believe some other parrot. No, that's where you seek the truth. If you're looking, you shall find. So you could say it's been misinterpreted by these Gentiles, common folk, telling us that the earth is moving around the central vortex when the earth is actually stationary and the vortex turns. It's all verifiable. You consider that as turning, and there's an S curve in here, in the 2D system if you want, but in 3D it's a spiral, a 360 spiral. And that projecting out creates the movement of the celestial bodies around our night sky. Because the turning of that central image, projecting out, creates this, basically a spiral cycle where it goes around and out again. Ends up being a cardioid pattern. So at the end of the day, there's the sun, there's the fire. There's the fire. Okay? So they're pretty well right. They're onto it. But the Gentiles cannot interpret it properly and understand what he's actually getting at. So, usually referred to as Philolaus of Croton, he is also known as Philolaus of blah blah blah, all the way down. Let's skip a bit. Blah, 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 blah. He's mentioned in Plato, in the Phaedo or Phaedo. Is known to have been the teacher of the Pythagorean astronomer and statesman Archytas of Tarentum, as well as the first to write a book or books on Pythagorean philosophy. Philolaus, or whatever, works drew on the tradition of the pre-Socratic philosophers, those who wrote before the time of Socrates of Athens, whose primary focus was defining a first cause of existence. We all realise we all come from the Milky Way. All life has come from the Milky Way because in the Milky Way is the black hole. Who won a Nobel Prize for announcing that after 60 years of research? Who told his viewers within 6 months of studying the flat earth system? So, the black hole is in the Milky Way. And what's on the horizon of the Milky Way? The sun. It's all in that Milky Way. So the black hole is the fixed and stationary. It's at rest. And from rest it's the place of inertia. It's the place of perfection. That is where Earth comes from. Earth has been created from that place of perfection. So you could consider the black hole as the flat plane of Earth. Okay? That's where all life comes from, the black hole centre. It's basically telling you here, but they can't interpret it properly. All suggested their own concepts of their first cause, and Pythagoras could offer his own as well as insights into the nature of the human condition. That phrase, human condition, who uses that? Tesla. And he talks about the human condition, but really he's talking about this gap. This gap. It's basically in electrical engineering or physics. Separation of the gap. How wide should we make the gap for the amount of energy that's flowing? It's going deep. Philolaus seemed to have combined Pythagorean thoughts with his own views on the first cause to present a view of the universe comprised of limited and unlimited aspects. The latter held in place by the former, which operated seamlessly through a mathematical musical harmony. And the nature of a given thing was unlimited, but the form it took limited it spatially. Philolaus was the first Greek philosopher to suggest that the earth was not the centre of the universe, but a planet like any other, and that all the planets, the sun, the moon, revolved around the centre fire. Well, they do, the centre fire. So the actual fire, ring of fire is the ecliptic plane. Right? Here's my pen. And what's in the centre of the ecliptic plane? You guys you call this the racetrack. What's at the centre? The black hole. And what's on its horizon? The sun. From the centre. That is all tucked in where the black hole is, right here in the centre. Earth's out here, remember? Dead centre down in there. So, you know, all the planets are out here. The sun is there, but Earth is from the black hole. Earth is at that centre point there. So, in reality, Earth is geocentric and it's a bit of both, isn't it? unlimited. So Greek philosopher suggests that the earth was not the centre of the universe, blah, 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 revolved around a central fire. Is the ecliptic plane is the ring of fire. The actual ring of fire was limited, but like all else was limited spatially. His beliefs are thought to have influenced Plato, Aristotle, Aristarchus, who's first advocated for a heliocentric model of the solar system. Heliocentric, yeah, right. Pre-Socratic and the first cause. The pre-Socratic philosophers are often cited as the first scientists in that they attempted to formulate systems to explain the nature of existence without reference to the supernatural. In Thales' time, the polytheistic Greek religion explained the origin of the universe and humanity in terms of as gods. Zeus had defeated the sources of chaos and established order. That order was then maintained by him and his fellow deities. This is the worldview that informs the 8th century BCE work of Homer and Hesiod, and was the underlying form of Greek culture, which understood the gods as simply all-powerful and immortal versions of humanity. The Greeks and all these past cultures used the term gods to give names to all the functions, like Shu standing there separating the sky from the earth with his arms out. It's the vortex of creation. There's Shu standing there, the sky goddess. Up Jeb, or the earth, and man, the physical realm down here we dwell in, separated. They have to give them names somehow to tell the story. So what's this? Anthropomorphism is the outstanding characteristic of Homeric religion, and hence of Greek religion as a whole. Nor was it a half-hearted. In the extent fragments of his work, he does not deny the existence of gods, blah 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 blah. Well, it is from water, because it all comes from water. That is water in there. And it goes through a process where it goes through the recycling system of Earth. When the water rises, it expands. And as it expands, it changes its molecular structure. It expands, it's stepping up in gradients, different gaseous gradients. It's the inert gases. What do you say here? The first cause was water, because when water was heated, it became vapour, air. When cooled, it became ice, solids. But it's a long story when it comes to physics and the way the recycling system works. You want to check out my earlier videos. Okay, we'll move on from that one. When you break down a couple of these names, it's Philolaus. You break it down in etymology, you end up with like phi, and then look, and then we have eye and sound. Well, creation's all about those three, because the eye sees the picture, which is based on sound, resonant frequencies, colour. It all comes from sound, because out of this place, the black hole, is the sound that creates all of our existence. So the eye, because we're in the eye of Ra, which is basically an eye. You look at that. I could draw another picture to show you, but I think you might have seen a few. And then back to phi. Well, phi is basically what's coming out of here. The system is a phi system, and out of that centre is a phi system. Okay? The southern hemisphere, if you haven't seen my videos before, the sun and everything comes around like this across your arc of horizon, goes west into the vortex again and back out again. That's the projected image that comes out of this S-curve central vortex. Projected out gives you this, but we only see half at a time, don't we? We don't see behind us. We see it go across our horizon. Plenty of videos on that I've done. And then you can go on to antichthon. Antichthon. Probably get into that in a minute. But that's antique. One. Or antique. One antique or third person. Or one teaches the third person, or one, as in, then goes on to single, third person. So make I single is about your third eye. So one single and third person. If you break all the stuff down, you get to the bottom of creation and how they're talking based on a third eye observation, which is the wise one who's woken up, gone through a second birth, you see. All these ancient philosophers are these people. Philolaus of Croton. Miss all that, go right. Print with limiters is unlimited, are not combined in a haphazard way, but are subject to fitting together or harmonia, which can be described mathematically. Philolaus, primary example of such a harmonia of limiters and unlimiteds, is a musical scale in which the continuum of sound is limited according to whole number ratios, so that the octave, fifth and fourth are defined by the ratios 2 to 1, 3 to 2 and 4 to 3 respectively, since the whole world is structured according to numbers. We only gain knowledge of the world insofar as we grasp these numbers. The cosmos comes to be when the unlimited fire is fitted together with the centre of the cosmic sphere. Comes together. There's two ends of the Milky Way. There's the male and the female. They come together and create the sun, which is the hermaphrodite. All life comes from that spot, because right there where the sun is there's the father on centralized to it, because the sun is on the horizon of the black hole. The cosmos comes to be when the unlimited fire is fitted together with the centre of the cosmic sphere, a limiter, to become the central fire. Philolaus was the precursor of Copernicus in moving the earth from the centre of the cosmos and making it a planet. No, I think this is common man's interpretation. But in Philolaus' system, it does not orbit the earth, does not orbit the sun, but rather the central fire. Okay, the central fire's in here, earth is out here. Instead of trying to spin the earth around it, why don't you just turn this? The astronomical system is a significant attempt to try to explain the phenomena, but also as mythic and religious significance. Philolaus presented a medical theory in which there was a clear analogy between the birth of a human being and the birth of the cosmos. What have I been doing in all my videos? I've been connecting creation with the human body and the human mind, spiritual birth, rebirth, and the physical birth. The embryo is conceived or as composed of the hot and then as drawing and cooling breath immediately upon birth. Just as the cosmos begins with the heat of the central fire, which then draws in breathing along with the void and time from the unlimited. There is controversy as to whether or not Aristotle's description of the Pythagorean as equating things with numbers is an accurate account of Philolaus' view. Pythagorean astronomical system, and this is Wikipedia. An astronomical system positioning that Earth, Moon, Sun, planets evolved around the unseen central fire. Well, I've talked all about this, so they all know, I know, was developed in the 5th century BC and has been attributed to the Pythagorean philosopher Philolaus. The system has been called the first coherent system in which celestial bodies move in circles. They've always moved in circles. The Chinese and the Indians knew all about this way before these pommy frauds came along, anticipating Copernicus in moving the Earth from the centre of the cosmos, land, making a planet. Load of rubbish. Although its concepts of a central fire distinct from the sun, see, they're separating it because it is. That's the unseen sun. We see the image of the sun supposedly out in this area here, which is the end of this Milky Way. That's the image, because it's come into the physical world, our realm, our perceived physical realm. Nothing's actually physical. The sun is not physical. It's an image of the actual hidden plasma back here. So they know there's a separation here. Although its concepts of a central fire distinct from the sun and a non-existent counter-earth. Non-existent counter-earth. Were erroneous. The system contained the insight that the apparent motion of the heavenly bodies was, in large part, due to the real motion of the observer. So they're screwing it up here. They're basically, that actually means it's all relative to the observer. How he sees the celestial bodies move over his arc of horizon. It's relative to the observer. It's all coming from in here, but it's plastered onto the man's arc of horizon. It's all relative to him. That's why you cannot get a distance from A to B. They're all projected, holographic projections relative to the observer. As he moves, they will move with him. If he moves so far, we've moved up in the sky, he moves amongst them, and as he approaches them, they start disappearing because he's in amongst the projector, the projector screen. Where are we? The system contained the insight that the apparent motion of the heavenly bodies was, in large part, due to the real motion of the observer. How much of the system was intended to explain observed phenomena and how much was based on mysticism and religion is disputed. While the departure from traditional reasoning is impressive, other than the inclusion of the 5 visible planets, very little of Pythagorean system is based on genuine observations. No, it is if you know where to look. In retrospect, Philolaus's views are less like scientific astronomy than like symbolic speculation. So he's got here, Philolaus believed that there was a counter-earth, antichikton, well that's the word I broke down, orbiting the central fire. So that it was a counter-earth, antichton, A-N-T-I-C-H, thon, and you break that down, you get antichthon. That's that word, I've been over that. One, tone, single, third eye, third person, a teaching, or from the third eye aspect, the knowledge, the wisdom of the second birth, orbiting the central fire, and that neither were visible from the earth. The upper illustration depicts earth at night, while the lower one depicts earth in the day. So you go deep into ancient philosophy, it's everything I describe in this, our flat earth model here. They know, and it all equates if you really put your mind to it and stop believing the